fantasy, baseball statistics, a little bit of what we're going to do today. I slapped together kind of a quick mid-season chat to help us manage through the rough patch. We've got some obvious things to talk about. Going to review a couple lists put out there by the industry and then go over some pitching, some breakouts, and some people that are struggling. But first, obviously, the main event, the main thing to pay attention to here is the Jared Kelenic call-up. Stop the video and go get your Jared right now. Go to Jared. Just going to talk a little bit about what we can expect from this Toolsy prospect. Obviously, Sharp Leagues, most places have been holding some Jared. I was able to get some Jared maybe last week. But if you do have some Jared on the waiver, obviously you got to get him before that call-up coming up tomorrow, Thursday. We're looking at a 60 future value slugger. Young, only 21 years old, 60 hit tool, future, 60 game power, 60 raw power, with a little bit of speed, 50 speed now, progressing to a 45 speed later. What I like to see from Jared as we look at these minor league numbers is the kind of meteoric rise that we're looking at. A quick rookie ball, A ball, high A, double A, triple, and he's up. Coming up as just a 21-year-old, 6'1", 190, close to prototype size, so he's a little bit bigger. I like to see that. Minor league numbers, we want to compare a little bit of that K to BB. So there is some strikeout in his game. We're seeing K rates about 20%. That's not huge swing and miss, but he can take a walk. Walk rates between 8 and 11% in his minor league. So that's going to play. WRC pluses of 192, 181. He got out really hot in AAA this year with the 182 with those 2 bombs and a couple bases, and he is up and ready to rock. We've been waiting for this kind of prospect, and again, we don't know about the build. We've seen different, how did Gavin Lux adjust? How did Kelenic, different guys? The 60, how are they going to deal with the off-speed? It didn't happen for Vaughn right away, but it could happen for Kelenic with the 60 grade tool, and he's up, so you're going to want to get a piece of that right away. Cut some of your fat off your bench. We're just going through being ravaged by injuries. I mean, I'm seeing 4 IL spots on Yahoo, and that's not even enough. I've got teams with 5 hitters injured, 2 pitchers. I got COVID ILs. We're losing Tatis for a blip here. We might get a Corbin Burns back. So it's been rough, and I started to get that feeling like, did prep even matter? Almost like it didn't matter. I mean, there's so many players have been wiped away. A lot of my team is being built off of waivers. Hopefully, you're out just a little bit in your leagues where you've got a good foundation and you can kind of piece it together through this rough patch. So I just want to have a little chat with you guys. I think the silver lining on the prep is it allows you to give certain players a longer leash. It allows you to jump on stuff off of waivers that never should have been cut. But we can go in and we can dig into some of the skills and see how players are playing, whether whether it's the real thing or it's a little bit of fool's gold. Obviously, we have to talk about Luis Robert. Sometimes it's like a reverse, almost a chaos theory. A butterfly flaps its wings, causing hurricanes on the other side of the world. Did I personally put too much pressure on Luis Robert this season? And I know a lot of people think that that's not really possible. The game's being played and then the fantasy numbers are derived from that. But I wonder sometimes if my fantasy teams are impacting games. No, guys, I'm serious about this. I mean, I've known to carry players through rough patches, it seems. And right when I've had enough and I cut them, the breakout continues. I just kind of set him free. So Luis Robert, a lot of pressure being put on him here. And I've watched the injury a lot of times. And I have to say, as I'm watching Robert, and he's big and muscular. So Tatis is lean and fast. I can see how Tatis has the sprint speed that he has. But Roberts is powerful. I mean, dare I say a Bo Jackson-esque build. And I'm watching Robert, like, man, he has a little bit of a funny stride. It's not a long stride. He doesn't lift his knees very high, and I just saw this observing him. This is a man who already has a gold glove because he's so rangy in center field. And we're going to look at a hitter list. We're going to look at Matthew Pollitt's top 300. And even though Robert wasn't doing amazing to start the season, I mean, he got the average up to 300. He was taking more bases than he was hitting for power, but he just looks so clean in the box. Looks has all the features of a real MLB superstar. And then we get the injury running to first base again. Guys not being warmed up. Let me go on. I find this article, and this is what I felt with Robert. We see that the injury is a full tear of a hip flexor, where he's going to be out 12 to 16 weeks, 3 to 4 months, and may require surgery. They waited to even put him on the IL, so they did me dirty with that. And then we find out that he's not going to go for surgery, and this becomes one of the longest holds possible. I found a little bit of an article here. I want to read what they said here. Robert will not have surgery, the team said on Friday. He suffered the injury and is expected to be away 12 to 16 weeks. Without knowing the exact particulars of the tear, more often than not, he's going to get back to at or near the same level. Near the same level. So this kind of injury, will this take a little bit of speed off of a Robert? Will this not, we expect him to get at the same level. He's young enough where I do think he will. But it's a little bit of just a fluke kind of freak injury. This is the further description they have here. It says Schultz. I believe Schultz is the team doctor. The athletes are so long and so fit, Schultz said. And he's going from almost 0 to 100 almost immediately. And the forces that are going through at the time, if his muscles aren't warmed up, or maybe he was just a little tight from the workload he had the previous day, who knows? Those forces are so great that sometimes the muscle can't provide the support that it needs to. When with an injury, we deep dive and then analyze, was there something that perhaps caused this? In Louis' cases, we're talking about one of the more explosive players in baseball and probably all of sports. It takes a long time for tissues to heal, especially with a muscle injury. If you push them too early, you run a risk of them falling back and having a setback. So there's a little bit of a description. Now, I watched the film. Again, he first at bat, obviously not warmed up enough, runs out a grounder, which he did beat out to first base. But you can see on a flexor, on a lift, to get that leg up, the hip muscle just must have snapped like a rubber band, just disappeared. They call it a grade 3 strain, but it was really a full tear of a hip flexor, which I just don't think I've heard of very much before. So I do think there's something a little bit awkward in Robert's kind of running mechanics, how long and how powerful he is. Obviously not properly warmed up, and we're seeing that from so many players in the league this season. So it's a devastating injury. But what I was saying is I don't want him, obviously, to have surgery. I do want him to be back. But if he had just had the surgery, I could have moved him off the team. But now I'm in like the longest hold window where I'm going to stash Robert for what hopefully is a playoff run where he can get back. And I just have to keep one of those IL spots for him just into perpetuity, basically. So we got that going. It was really sad to lose one of the more fragile players, Byron Buxton. We know he's going to be temperamental. He is sensitive, obviously mashing. I liked a little bit of what we're hearing from Byron. Isn't unexpected news. He was having an absolute monster when he's on the field this season, slashing .370 with 19 runs score, 17 RBI, 5 swipes. Obviously, in the 9 home runs. So he's much missed. And this is kind of all happening at the same time. They're filling up my IL, but my IL was already full. So my bats are getting worn down. They're getting a little bit light. A couple plays that I want to get to here, a couple players as we come off, is Nico Hoerner. Nico Hoerner, 23 years old, 6'1", 50 future value with a 55 hit, lighter game power 40, game power 50, raw power 55 speed. So what we see from a Hoerner, whose minor league numbers are okay, I mostly see a guy that likes to take a walk and doesn't strike out that much. excellent in the box. Look, tremendous eye in the box. Great batting stance, great contact. And he seems to be playing up at the big league level, stealing bases. And I think anyone who cut him to the IL is go get him back. It looks like he's coming on Friday. I think we're looking at the real deal from a Nico Hoerner. Just wanted to let you guys know that he'll be back soon. And I saw that he was cut in a couple leagues. Another call up here, a little bit quieter call up. I don't know if you're going to have any room for this. Definitely in deep leagues, but I wanted to look at the New York Mets calling up a Khalil Lee, 22 years old, 5'10", 170. No relationship to me personally that I know of, but he's getting called up, and I just want to talk about these minor league numbers a little bit here. What I will give a guy a benefit of the doubt if it's a meteoric rise, like here we have Khalil, rookie A, high A, takes 1 year, double A, triple A, and he's up pretty quick. So even if the other numbers aren't good, people are looking at him. They're like, this guy's ready for the bigs. He's ready to go. And here I'm like, well, let's just take a look at Khalil. 45 future value player, 40 hit, 50 game power, 60 raw power. Interesting. With the 55 grade speed and a little bit of fielding for only a 45 future value. But he's 5'10". I look at the numbers and I have to wonder, did these guys get this wrong? Did they miss something here? Because what we see, and I love to see a season, I think you see a little bit of superstardom if you do see some sort of 2020 home runs and stolen base minor league season. And we see a Khalil. In 2017, Khalil Lee went for 17 home runs and 20 stolen bases for a 125 WRC plus. The batting average has been a little bit low. There is swing and miss. I'm looking at K rates, 25%, 23, 28, but is taking some walks with 11% walk rate. So as we go through the numbers here, we see the high A. We look at what happened when he jumped up to double A. Just got a little taste in 2018, 23% K rate, tolerable, 9% walk rate, okay. But in 2019, when they sent him back into double A here, this 2019 season, look at this. Okay, the walk rate was 12%, the K rate was 28. That's not good. But he had 8 home runs and 53 stolen bases. 53 stolen bases? That is absolute. He's a terrorizer on the bases. So I don't know if that 55 speed tool is a little light. I would expect him to be maybe more of a 60 tool, and he could run all over the place, getting the call up for the New York Mets. So if you've got some room, if you need some speed, you could take a peek in there. That's a Khalil Lee. I'm just going to mention a name getting circulated around. This is a Vidal Brujan, Brujan, for the Tampa Bay Rays, 23 years old, 5'10". What's interesting here is Brujan may come up before Wander Franco, which makes me a little uncomfortable because I am still stashing some Wander, especially when I lost Robert. I'm looking at my team. I need that upside. I need something to pop. And so I felt like I had to go stash some more prospects because I'm probably going to get Wander before I get Robert back. And that was my thinking there. But just to touch on a Vidal Brujan here, 60 future value player, 65 hit, 45 power, 50 power, 70 speed tool. You know, it's interesting, a 70 speed tool. You see a guy that took WRC pluses look great. They're all positive. They're all 138 plus. He took 43 bases in A, but Khalil Lee took 53 in double A. So is the speed there? Khalil Lee has flashed more pop. I mean, Khalil hit 17 home runs in an A season. And here we have Brujan, a little bit older, 23 years old. The most home runs he's ever hit is like 5. But a tremendous eye at the plate. AAA has nothing more for him as he is walking 21% of the time to just 10% K rate for a 281 WRC plus. How do you do in AAA? They got him for an 8% walk rate to 15% strikeout rate. So we could see a Brujan come up here soon. I think keeping your eye on that. I don't know if it's time to stash, but we're going to move quickly if he gets the call. I wanted to talk a little bit about, did I skip him over here? A Trevor Larnach, Just want to make you aware the 24-year-old 6'4 slugger, 55 future value with the 60 power, 60 raw power. As we lost Alex Kirilov, did I get him here? Yeah, let's just talk about, so it seems like the wrist is the injury this year. For some reason, different years, it's just different trends. And this year, between Ke'Bryan, Kirilov, Hoerner, I think even Lux, just the wrist, having those quick wrists, swinging the bat, handling a lot of heat on the pitches. Kirilov will test out his sprained right wrist to see how it feels, according to Twins manager. It could lead to a quick return if he feels well. However, Baldelli cautions that they won't rush their top hitting prospect. And if things don't go well, surgery is an option, which would probably end his season. So Kirilov, right on the precipice of either coming back or just having his season ended with some sort of surgery in the wrist. So it seems like it's bad. The wrist is just so weak, and the ligaments and the bones that make it up are so small that I don't have a lot of confidence in that. That's kind of what happened to Ke'Bryan Hayes. But it was a nice debut for Kirilov, who we watched him go 0 for. I had time to cut him, but then the bombs came. Home run, 2 home runs. We thought maybe it was happening. Was able to claw him back in some leagues to just see him out with the wrist. But I'm still stashing there, just waiting for the news on what we're going to get from Kirilov. But the reason I mention him is just because you got a Trevor Larnach, kind of Kirilov light, getting the look. Maybe something happens. It hasn't happened yet. It's hard to tell which I would rather have, a Max Kepler who started slow, who we know is a player from last year, starting to steal some bases, or just a Larnach. A couple guys to keep your eye on there. I got a couple players here I wanted to mention. I want to wait on the pitchers. Tristan McKenzie will come back to. Brandon Lowe, 26-year-old Brandon Lowe, just so disappointing right now. Starting to sit versus lefties. I thought that we had a real player. I thought that I had power. I invested a lot there, and it's not coming together, and now he's losing at bats. But I'm looking at the games. He's hitting a home run, and then they're benching him. And then it's a home run. He's been like, let him go. Turn Below loose. Give him a little bit of a leash. That's the thing with the prospects. Even when these guys get called up, like when Kelenic gets called up, you just got to set it and forget it for a couple weeks. We can't decide after 3 games that he doesn't start, home run, stolen base to cut him right away. I think you got to give him a little bit more time than that. A couple guys on waivers who slow starts pretty much got cut. I was down on. I had some and I cut some. Just keep in mind a Gavin Lux coming back from the wrist, slowly getting it going, hit a home run last night, was cut in a lot of leagues. I think you got to make sure you keep the luxury tax in mind. He's got a 670 future value. Another guy, Nick Senzel, suddenly leading off a little bit as another 60 future value player with a 70 hit tool, 55 power, 55 raw power. Just fragile as could be. Just like, antique China or something with Nick Senzel. But he's starting to get it going a little bit. And it reminds me, when we get in on a prospect early, you have some hype, and it can burn you. But with those guys, if you're going to make a move early, if you're going to see a little glimmer, you can go back there. It happened to me with Cedric Mullins. I thought Cedric was a player. And the next season he came out and he burned me badly. But that way I know when I start to see Cedric looking 5-toolsy this season, oh, okay, here it is. He had to make some adjustments to the off speed, that kind of thing. So Cedric is looking pretty good this year, leading off for the Baltimore Orioles. So just having a little bit of chat with you guys. I got a couple more things to get into here before we move to the pitching. Ke'Bryan Hayes getting moved to the 60-day injured list. Talking about having him back in June. And April, May, all of May, June. It feels like forever in baseball days, but he could be back. There's a lot of baseball to be played. I'm not really finding really solid replacements for Ke'Bryan at third base. So I'm just kind of patching it together as just one of those holes. I want to switch over to a couple things. So one man's trash is another man's waiver wire treasure. And the reason I feel like this is that if we know a player that we know is good, that we know has a track record of being good, has owned these skills previously, we haven't felt the pain that another owner has done, the 3 or 4 weeks of somebody just dragging their lineup and not performing. And maybe these other owners, they're not going to give their guy a long leash. They're just rage cutting. They've just had enough and they're going to cut them off. But what's nice with these players is that you haven't really dealt with the pain point, and so you don't hate that player yet. You just know him as the player from draft prep who you said, hey, he was a $20 player. Maybe I can get something out of him as the rest of the season goes on. Just want to look at a couple of those guys, scan a couple lists that are kind of interesting. One is looking at BABIP. I'm on Fangraphs, all hitters, sorting by BABIP, and then sorting it by the lowest BABIP. Essentially, these would be the guys that started off very unlucky, and it's dragging down their average, and they're not hitting. And their owners are disgusted with them at this point. They've either hit waivers, or this owner wants no part of this. They think they're getting nothing out of this guy. So these might be some trade targets or some guys on waivers that you could go get. And I just want to touch on the names that really pop out here. Eugenio Suarez with a .174 BABIP for a 146 average, striking out 35% of the time. I mean, this is not good. He has 6 home runs, but he's just really tiring out his owner who thought from preseason he was just getting something so solid, and Eugenio Suarez, just such a solid pick. But Suarez has really been killing him in average and barely hitting. Paul DeJong, a 179 BABIP for a 180 average, still has 7 home runs. You would think better days are to come there for DeJong, striking out only 22% of the time. I'm grossed out. I have a lot of Kyle Tucker. I said, you know what? Let me give Kyle Tucker a chance. I'm seeing contact. I'm seeing size. Maybe it's really happening here. 7 home runs. Okay, Kyle. But 194 BABIP for a 203 average. You're not even on base to get me the runs, Kyle. But there probably are better days ahead because that is very unlucky. Freddie Freeman. Dylan Moore, a 200 BABIP for a 152 average. But Dylan Moore with a 32% strikeout rate. Just whiffing. I think it's small sample size luck. I mean, Dylan Moore looks the type in the box, taking good cuts, but just is not handling the off-speed pitch, not making adjustments. Early season fantasy darling, not paying off for a lot of teams. Austin Meadows, a 203 BABIP for a 189 average, killing people. Francisco Lindor, who was telling people don't look at StatCast numbers. It's not all about StatCast. It's about players. Well, Lindor off to a 211 BABIP for a 200 average. Ouch. Jose Ramirez, a 223 BABIP for a 261 average. At least Jose's getting it done. He's got 10 home runs. He's been hitting a lot of bombs. He could be even better, but you're not going to really rip him away from any other owners out there. You got Anthony Rizzo here, Marcell Ozuna, 237 BABIPs for 233 or a 203 average, especially Ozuna, who should be better than that. You can take a look at the list here. There's Brandon Lowe, 239 BABIP for a 193 average. Just horrible. Ozzie Albies right behind him with a 240 BABIP for a 230 average. Really just brutal numbers. So looking at that reverse BABIP, there are probably some better days to come. So stick with some of those guys or maybe get out there and make some moves. Something I didn't go over before that I do want to take a look at. All pitchers, plate discipline, Fangraphs here, and the swinging strike rates. Because in the end, swinging strike is what's going to get us the Ks, what's going to get us out of pinches, what's going to get us deep into games. And obviously the names at the top of the list. I think we touched on this before. We got a Jake DeGrom, Bieber, Glass now with a 16.8 swinging strike. And I just want to talk about how elite the swinging strike is at 14 plus. I don't think these guys are going to stay here all season. Hitters are going to warm up and arms are going to tire. So you're going to get a little bit of reverse effect. Hitters are going to see pitchers multiple times and they're going to start making adjustments there. But right out of the gates, we got some guys really missing some bats. Scherzer, 16%. Clayton Kershaw, 15.6%. Resurgence from the big horse. John Means, who's having the best season of his career with a 15.4 swinging strike. Musgrove, Robbie Ray, striking him out 15%, not walking as many batters, looking pretty serviceable. Cole, Alcantara, Giolito, Gaussman, Freddie Peralta. It's really happening with that. Three different types of fastballs. He's got a 14.3% swinging strike. Dylan Cease, who I was making fun of for being wild, for being max energy to start the season, kind of harnessing some of that whiff stuff, 14.2%. Duffy, Urias, the Klubot, 13.4%. Even Kikuchi, who it's just hard to trust. Kikuchi's on waivers a lot. Good fastball, some swing and miss, but sometimes getting tagged. Brandon Woodruff, Tyler Anderson, Huascar, Yanoa, looking great, going deep for the Atlanta Braves, who, if a prospect goes right for the Braves, they're probably really right because of how the Braves manage staff. Herman Marquez, who's getting dropped in leagues for getting hit hard. And this is where, once you get into that 12%, where you start to be a little bit, Walker Buehler, Lance McCullers, Maeda, Bumgarner, Bauer, Darvish, Ian Anderson, Manaea, Bassett, Wheeler, Mahle with 12, Plesac only 11.9. So for me, really that line is at 12. Flaherty's making it work with 11%. Sometimes it depends on if you're getting run support, if you got defense behind you. So just taking a little look there. K minus BB percentage, obviously, we have so many guys up in the 20s. It's interesting because Corbin Burnes hadn't walked anyone yet. He's looking to meet the most Ks in a season without walking a player, a hitter, which is held by Kenley Jansen. I think Burnes is at something like 40 plus Ks with no walks. So his K to B percentage, I think, would either be infinity or 100. It's something outrageous. We're looking to get him back. Just check your filth meter out there. Those are the guys that are really going well. Obviously, anything over 20% on your K to BB, it's going to be spectacular. But there's no way that 20 of these guys, 27 pitchers, maintain this through the whole season. So we'll see how that goes. Get into some XFIP, some FIP to see who's going to reverse XFIP and see who's really doing it. It's just kind of checking in on pitchers. Huascar Yanoa looks like the real deal. It's going to change a lot. Kikuchi, guys are getting hit around. So these are the couple lists that I found interesting. I go over to Pitcher List, pitcherlist.com. This is, I believe it's Nick Pollock's baby, his masterpiece. And what I find with Pitcher List, I just look, well, let me see who Nick thinks are the best pitchers. Let's check the list of pitchers on Pitcher List. And it's moving around because what Nick needs is a long track record. Nick has to see it directly in his face. Multiple games, 6, 7, 8 games, before he starts to come off of some of that preseason ADP. And the most recent list this week, it comes out every week, I can tolerate. But I almost wanted to go back 1 week when I first really looked at it to talk about some of the pitchers that it just is unwilling to move. The 19th spot, Hyun-Jin Ryu, Charlie Morton and Sonny Gray, 23-24, Dylan Bundy at 30, Pablo Lopez right there. But Mahle at 31, you don't think Mahle's going better than that, Nick? I mean, you keep going down the list. Okay, Jesus Luzardo, it hasn't been good. Ian Anderson, John Means. I mean, Means has been amazing. He has him at 36. Gaussman's been really good, 37. Trevor Rogers at 38 with Montas. I mean, Talon's been terrible. Kyle Hendricks in front of Corey Kluber. Hendricks has been getting rocked. Carlos Rodon at 44. That's it. Freddie Peralta at 48. Just no movement. Freddie Peralta and then Corbin, then Paddock. I mean, Paddock's been getting killed. So you see a little bit of unwillingness to really shift some of these guys around. But over time, by the end of the season, Nick will arrive with a player rater and have all of the pitchers be in line with how they did last season. But another list, another one of my favorites to look at. This was, let me get his name, Matthew Pollitt, writing for Roto World or CBS Sports News, The Edge, whatever they're calling it, does an early rest of season top 300. And this was just almost laughable, but I feel like there were some names worth reviewing. So when you come out, I mean, July, April, May, was it the May rankings or was it the July? It's May rest of season. So it's been about a month. And this is kind of your first glimpse at let me go clean up my mistakes in ADP that are just obviously wrong. Because how can you come off of your rankings 3 weeks into the season, everybody's on a small sample, and just start shuffling guys randomly around? But this is kind of Matthew Pollard's first look at like next year's ADP as he moves around. So top 300, I'm going to read through these names. I think really the top 30, 40 are kind of the most interesting. Number 1, Ronald Acuna. Number 2, Jake DeGrom. IL with a lat injury. Soto, Trey Turner, Trout, Story, Betts, Garrett Cole, Tatis Jr., Jose Ramirez. That's great, up to 10. Number 11, Vlad Guerrero Jr. So just like that, in 3 or 4 weeks, Vlad Guerrero Jr. going from somebody you jumped to get in the 4th round to an 11th overall player. And there's a lot of season left, and he is terrorizing baseballs. Bryce Harper, Freddie Freeman, Shane Bieber, Corey Seager up to 15. Byron Buxton, 16. He's got him up to 16. Sorry, guys. Byron Buxton was going for nearly free, an afterthought in the outfield. And 3 or 4 weeks into the season, Matthew Pollard has him at 16. Oh my goodness. Trevor Bauer, Walker Buehler. Buehler hasn't been that good. Buehler still continues to have a home run problem. He's been decent, but we're just not ready to get off that ranking. Max Scherzer, Christian Yelich at 20. Whoa, Christian Yelich. This is a guy with first round consideration who can't get right. Back injury, comes in, back hurts again, he's out. It's going to be a long season for Christian Yelich. This is the hard part about guys. I'm reading an Adam Eaton note, and it's after Robert note because Eaton's a teammate, and Eaton says, Eaton's 32, and he's talking about being sore, and he goes, I'm an old man. I just got to get my legs right. He's saying it to us at 32 that he is already old, and he's probably just a year older than Christian Yelich, so it's coming right out of these guys' mouths. Here it is, right back to back with Christian Yelich at number 21. He put Luis Robert at 21. And I just thought, wow, at this point, Robert had barely played. He had maybe 2 or 3 home runs and 6 stolen bases, was hitting for average. But so toolsy, just dripping with tools to the point that Matthew Pollard thought that he's a top 20 overall player. Clayton Kershaw, Machado, Corbin Burns up to 25. Whoa. Rafael Devers, Glasnow, Kyle Tucker at 28. How? So legacy, not wanting to move off certain guys. I guess I can't have it both ways. I can't have you moving too quick and overreacting at the same time holding on to people. But Kyle Tucker, 28, he's been having a bad season for that. And then Bo Bichette. Bo Bichette has been vastly outperforming Kyle Tucker this season. Aaron Nola, Giolito, Darvish, Albies. Not says this BABIP. Not Albies isn't there. Merrifield, Bellinger. I get some of this is legacy. Alberto Mondesi hasn't even played. He's got him at 38. Bregman, JD Martinez, sure, the veteran who had it going right. Woodruff, Carlos Correa pops into this. Zach Gallen at 46, way too high. Jordan Alvarez. You could see this list. It's basically the May top 300 overall by Matthew Pollard, 2021. I won't read through all the names, just some of that movement. Let me just scroll down here. Jordan Alvarez, who's been on a tear, he's got it at 49. George Springer hasn't even played. He's still got him at 52. Won't move him. Jose Barrios, Teoscar. We'll see. It's just that kind of thing. It's just how fast we can make some adjustments for certain players. So let's talk a little bit about pitching. I just teed up some guys here that I think are interesting. I wanted to kind of find out with you guys. We can go through what I'm looking for here, and I just want to start with the Kenta Maeda. 33 years old, 6'1", just really having a rough go of it. I know we talked about it before. He's leading slider. He's throwing a split finger. It's just that the whiff rates are down. The split finger in 2020 had a 45% whiff rate. It's only got a 25% whiff rate right now. It's disappearing on him. The slider down 3%. The four-seam fastball is doing okay. I mean, maybe he's just a little cold. I heard something about the schedule. Kentamaid is maddening right now, but I think we got to stick with him. That he's going to figure some things out. When I'm going to look at a guy, I'll jump over to Kentamaid on Fangraphs. I'll check out the game log. I just want to really dissect this and get granular. Going into the game log, I see a guy that's barely going 5 innings for me, and it's disappointing. We've got an Oakland and Cleveland where he gave up 3 home runs in each game. So a lot of the damage happening there. Just checking out the pitch type. You see a fastball velocity that's just been fluctuating. I wonder if he's in a dead arm phase. Starts off 92, then he's throwing 91. He's only 90 one of those games when he's getting crushed. Throwing a lot of slider. The curveball's been shelved. The change. Fangraphs isn't even registering a split finger, so we'd have to see the difference between Fangraphs and Baseball Savant. But let me just check the plate discipline, because this is where we'll find out if there's any hope. Zone contact itself, 3 really good games of sub-80 zone contact. So 4 games of sub-80 zone contact is good. 2 games with a high whiff rate, 16%, 22%. The last 4 games, almost no whiff, but at least a 10% swinging strike rate isn't terrible. I think you got to ride it out. I got some Kentamaid off of waivers in one league. Let's just stick with him there. Who else did I tee up here that I wanted you guys? I was looking at Walker Buehler. I just wanted to see what wasn't pretty. It's just the home run per 9. I mean, the walks are microscopic. He's got him down to 0.61, but you're averaging 1.62 home runs per 9. Getting into this game log real quick. Let me look at his plate discipline and the game log. Is Walker getting the whiffs? He's getting hot. I mean, Walker Buehler, 17, 12, 16, 13, 16. Getting the swing and miss. It's just the occasional ball he hangs up. I was watching him last night. And that curveball that he gets in, it's starting a little high, and it's not breaking down. It's just giving him about 4 or 5 inches of drop, and just boom, just getting mashed. So Walker dealing with a little bit of home run problems that I think he's gonna have to work through. I got to take a look here at Luis Castillo on his Baseball Savant. Luis Castillo kind of becoming one of the most frustrating, most temperamental pitchers in the game. You think you have a breakout, and then the next year he doesn't do it. And then we drop him down, and then he does it. And then we think he's an ace, and then he doesn't do it again. So Luis Castillo, what's really happening with him? Rumors, some narrative about Castillo being maybe a warm weather pitcher, being a slow starter, not liking when it's 50 or 60 out, needing it to be hot in the hot summer months. I mean, in 2020, the changeup, where he's leading changeup, has a 40% whiff. A four-seam fastball with a 37% whiff, sitting 97.4. And then a slider with a 42% whiff. I mean, come on. We get into this season, and we have only a 26% whiff rate on the changeup. Like, it's simply not working. The fastball and the sinker getting killed for a .41 batting average, a .48 batting average with no whiff. I mean, and here we go. The four-seam fastball in 2020 sat 97.4. The four-seam fastball this year in 2021 sitting 96.2. I mean, that's what's killing us. And then the slider only has a 22% whiff. At least the batting average is low, but not getting the true swing and miss. I mean, a tick down in fastball velocity, it hurts pitchers. It allows guys to catch up. It shrinks the differential between the off-speed stuff. I just want to jump over. I just want to see what the plate discipline is looking like for Luis Castillo. This is a guy who career 77, 76, 74, 75 zone contact. Suddenly an 83.8 zone contact for the first time. The chase up at 34.5%, the highest of his career. But his whiff has disappeared, 28, 35, 32. We thought we have a guaranteed bona fide ace on our hands for a 20% whiff. So things are not going right for Luis Castillo, obviously. The whiff rates have disappeared in a way that has never happened in his entire career. Is this a pitcher that's hurt? Is this a pitcher that's going through a dead arm phase? I don't know. But there's no way that Luis Castillo is is this poor of a pitcher in his career. I mean, he's giving up exit velocities, he's giving up barrels. I think you have to stick with it. I think that this is frustrating. I think you'd be tempting to rage cut or want to ship him out. You can be mad at your draft strategy. We couldn't have known that Luis Castillo's arsenal was going to just disappear at night. Just got robbed overnight. It's unbelievable. So I'll go a little further. I'll jump over to his fan graphs. I'll go into his game log, switch over from season stats to game log. A couple 2 home run games, no strikeouts, barely going 5 innings. Let me just see the pitch type. Yeah, so maybe better days ahead. It starts the season off 94 miles an hour, 95, 96, 95. Last couple of games, 97, 96.6. That's a lot better to see. Plate discipline, the whiffs just aren't there. 2 games with a 14% whiff we could tolerate. His last game at Cleveland, he had a 2.4% swinging strike rate. This is unbelievable. No swinging strike. He's throwing his fastball, slider, change. I don't see anything in there. I think he's got to work it out. I think he's got to warm up. It's nice seeing the velocity come back a little bit. Maybe Castillo's just in his head. He's in a rough patch, but the better days have to come here in the future. Let me look at Dylan Cease real quick. I'm on his baseball savant. How's he doing it? Dylan Cease sitting 96 with the fastball, down from 97.5 the year before. Okay. But a 53% whiff on the slider, on a plus slider. A curveball with a 33% whiff and a 44% whiff on his seldom used changeup. And even the fastball that went from 254 average both years, 17% whiff in 2020, up to a 25.8% whiff in 2021. So we're seeing a little bit more of Dylan Cease throwing that hard stuff with a slider that guys are having a hard time handling. A couple of guys that I'm seeing out on waivers. Madison Bumgarner, rising from the ashes, rising from the dirt mobile and the horse riding and the ranch work, from the ashes to becoming a little bit hot. I want to see if it's for real, how he's doing this. Mad Bum has kind of become a little bit of a soft tosser. He's got a 4-seam fastball that is sitting 90-91. That's all he needs with his interesting angle. He swapped it with his cutter, 86% with a 25% whiff rate. So Mad Bum makes a change here. In 2020, he's throwing fastball, then cutter. He says, I'm going to throw cutter, 25% whiff rate, then fastball. Kind of picks the fastball up. And the curveball is getting a 41% whiff. That's vintage Mad Bum. That's vintage 2016 Mad Bum. Really the highest whiff rate of his career on the curveball. So a field pitch that Madison Bumgarner has regained, helping him get some swing and miss. What does it amount to in the plate discipline? You see his zone contact down to a career high 80. The chase at pretty good 30.1 for a 27% whiff rate. Mad Bum basically regaining some modern version of his old self, 31 years old, the big horse, a competitor, looking pretty good this season. Probably want to keep riding that. Cole Irvin, what are you doing, Cole? Pretty popular as a streamer. I don't see anything serious. Cole Irvin sitting 90 with the fastball. That makes me nervous. Whiff rates of a 16, 22, 28, 24. I think Cole Irvin is some fool's gold. I'm not going to be serious there. Pablo Lopez, 25 years old, just got mashed last night. Whiff rates, fastball velocity, 93.8 is the usual. Whiff rates are not great. The curveball has a 42% whiff rate on it. Everything else, the 4-seamer at 28. So what is usually a good fastball for Pablo Lopez is not working great. He's actually leading changeup, kind of switching his usage changeup and then 4-seamer, as opposed to last season where he was fastball then change, and the whiff rates are slightly down. So maybe the league is catching up a little bit to Pablo Lopez. Here's my boy, Tristan McKenzie, 23 years old, 6'5". Still getting strikeouts, but it's just not coming together for him the way that we thought it would. Here I see is the major problem. We have a Tristan McKenzie in 2020 with a 92.8 mile an hour fastball, getting 23% whiffs. The slider, 44% whiff. The curveball, 34% whiff. So I thought we had it going. What happens here is Tristan McKenzie down 2 ticks to 91.1 on the fastball. That's not great. The whiff rate's still 28.9, but he's given up 4 dingers already. Really hurting. The slider, 60% whiff. The curveball, 52% whiff. So the swing and miss is still there for Tristan. Tristan's having a home run problem. Let me see what the plate discipline is amounting to. Zone contact just 75. The chase way down from 32 to 25, but the whiff up to 35. If Tristan can get these home runs right, get a little bit deeper into games, give me more than 4 or 5 innings, maybe find a tick on that fastball. Tristan is very smooth with the delivery. He likes to hurl fastballs right down the middle, but he's getting caught up in the zone a little bit. He's giving up too much meat. I'm seeing a lot of Tristan McKenzie on waivers because he was breaking hearts and getting rage cut. So maybe give Tristan McKenzie a shot if you're looking for a little shot in the arm if you need a pitcher here mid-season. I think there's better days ahead. Just going to check in on a Yusei Kikuchi. Using more so cutter here. Fastball velocity still 95. Why throw your cutter the most with a 20% whiff rate if the fastball that's 95 has a 34.8% whiff rate? I don't know. 34% whiff rate on the slider, 48% whiff rate on a changeup. It's just that Kikuchi has given up 7 home runs basically on all the pitches. Must just be occasionally serving up that meatball, so it hasn't come together. Zone contact 79, chase 30, whiff 29.5. It should be a better pitcher. Just having a problem with the home run situation. Nick Pavetta's here, 28 years old. What's Nick doing? Nick's throwing hard, 94.6. 30% whiff on the slider. Throws a little bit of changeup. Not really. 3-pitch mix, 30% whiff. I think Nick looks like fool's gold. Not enough whiff in there for me. Good team getting some run support. Casey Mize, the young prospect. What are you doing, Casey? Why haven't you blossomed into being a complete beast yet? Well, 94.7 on the fastball. Throws a slider, throws a sinker at 93.8, but there's just no whiff. 25.8 on the heater, 27% on the slider. I thought the split finger was his pitch. Must not have it. Only a 13% whiff. 30% whiff on the curveball, but doesn't throw it very much. The plate discipline, zone contact 83, chase only 25, whiff only 21. Those numbers will not work. We can't have zone contact up in the 80s, chase too low in the 30s, and the overall whiff percent below 25 at 21 is just too light, Casey. You gotta be, we're seeing a little bit more from former teammate Dylan Cease, I believe. Matt Harvey, the Dark Knight. I just like to check in on the Dark Knight, who's had such a rough career with injuries. The Dark Knight used to touch 96, 97 with regularity. He's throwing just 93.3. He's got the slider working for a 35% whiff. Everything else is getting hit around. A little bit of a curveball. Hey, just want to check in on Matt Harvey, 32 years old, pitching from Baltimore. Not going to be a real option. Nothing spectacular. Hasn't regained the old form after thoracic outlet surgery. Multiple Tommy Johns. John Gray, a guy who I've loved, who started getting tagged. Does John Gray have anything working for him here? Fastball at 94. Slider with a 41% whiff rate. Everything else is getting tagged. What's that plate discipline for John Gray? Can he be trusted? 80% zone contact. Okay. Chase is not good. Whiff is up to 27. You may want to stream, but not in Colorado. Not the place to do that. Let's look at John Means. Sudden emergence of the 6'3", 28-year-old John Means in Baltimore. How has it been so spectacular for John Means? Only 92.6 on the fastball, but a changeup with a 40.9% whiff and a .106 batting average. Giving hitters fits. Throws a curveball here. Hasn't given up a home run on it yet. A .071 batting average. And then a slider with a 51% whiff. So it's a plus changeup with a plus slider. Nothing's getting hit well. I did catch some videos of John Means using a little bit of that gunk, a little bit of substance. So I wanted to check on the spin rates. But we're not seeing a major tick up in spin rates. It's just a young guy, probably put the work in. has the breaking balls working, a little bit underestimated. Got it going at 28 years old in his physical prime. That's what I got for the boys today. We got Jazz Chisholm coming back. Need him so badly to hit. Nico Hoerner. Just some of my observations, letting you get back in there, address some of your players, get through this rough patch. We're being ravaged, but we can do it. We got a long season ahead. Holla at you, boy.